How much is that?
Welcome into the Podcast Editor Mastermind Show, the podcast by editors for editors about the business side of podcast editing. I'm Jennifer Longworth. You can find me at bourbonbarrelpodcasting.com. And the one that starts with the letter B is
Brian. You can find me at toptieraudio.com.
I am Daniel. You can find me at rothmedia.audio.
And we have a special guest with us today. Rick is here because he's the digital associate at the Lexington Public Library Northside branch here where I live in Lexington. And he did a killer presentation for the Lexington podcasters a few weeks ago. And I'm like, hey, we were talking about maybe we should have a guest for our next show. I think I found one. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Rick Selno. Super excited to be here.
Before we get started, this episode is brought to you by Riverside. And that, yes, we are using Riverside right now. If you don't know, Riverside is a remote video recording software system that records directly in your browser. Still getting used to it, but so far it's actually been quite a pleasant experience. So you don't have to worry about any hardware or like super complicated tech. It's simple. You send your guests the link like we did with Rick tonight, and they hop in and click of a button. You can go live or record your interviews. If you want to record your episodes, or if you're interested in being like a producer role or helping your clients record episodes in high definition, and if you use the code YETIS, you can get 15% off of your order. So check it out now.
Speaking of Riverside, that brings us to the topic of the day, which is video and video podcasts. And Daniel, this was actually your idea to do an episode on this. So why are we talking about this?
I see the pull and the move to video. For the longest time, I was a podcast purist. Like, hey, podcasting is audio only. Don't even think about calling a video a podcast. But it's like, at this point, it's like, you know what? We lost that war. You can have a video podcast. I'm giving up. But I also see just like how big video is, and it's only getting bigger. So I'm trying to get my clients to do video. The problem is trying to get them to understand like the importance of high quality video, because Zoom, everybody knows Zoom, everybody uses Zoom. It's really easy to do, but it's awful. It's so bad. So my biggest issue is just trying to get my clients to actually use something like Riverside or recording like video locally on the computer or something and not use Zoom. And that's where I'm struggling. But I think just like as an industry, as podcast editors, I think it's important to see the writing on the wall that like video is huge, and there's a huge benefit having video, one, like growing your shows, but also just like as people who edit podcasts for money, like there's a huge market as a service to offer your clients.
Yeah, I was the same way. It annoyed me to no end when YouTube made their big play that they were like, YouTube has podcasts now. I'm like, what are you talking about? YouTube has done talking head shows since it's existed. That was the first thing that happened. Love it or hate it, like no one can deny Joe Rogan, right? Probably the biggest podcast in the world. And that's a huge chunk of his business model. And that's what makes it seem undeniable. Like, yes, content-wise, they are a podcast and tons of people still listen to them on Spotify, but the video is a massive thing.
Yeah, I was super annoyed too. But the fact is, video is valuable. I'm not sure how valuable it is.
So, Rick, you had some stats about the impact of video and maybe why we should nudge our clients that way or not. Can you share some of those with us?
So Westwood One, who you probably know, at least in like audio mediums, big for a long time. And they came out with some interesting numbers in partnership with like Cumulus Media and some others. But basically, as far as podcast downloads for new podcast listeners, when they broke it down, the three major players were YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. YouTube was 24.2% of new listeners, Spotify 23.8%, which is something that I think Jennifer's talked about a lot and things like that. Like when you're looking at younger audiences, that's maybe where they're coming to you from, as opposed to like the old guard like us who are still on Apple Podcast or whatever podcatcher we're using. And then Apple Podcasts was all the way down in 16, which is not bad. And I would never, ever tell someone to stop being in audio format, because I still think that's what podcasting is. Like, there's something valuable to, at least for me personally, the main way that I consume podcast is I listen on my commute. I listen when I'm walking my dog. I listen when I'm exercising, things like that, that I can't do a video or in those situations. And when we go into analytics, we can see lots of things. But when we talk about growth and things like that, like, it's one thing to find your fan base and demographic, but that's an immediate area for growth. When you look at like, okay, how do I keep growing? Do I go for breadth or depth? Do I continue to just try to scoop in more of the people who are already listening to me? Or do I try to spread out and do different things? So like for my friend and I do a sumo wrestling podcast that also is on YouTube. I joke all the time that like, okay, we got 50-year-old white men. That's taken care of. Now, can we get anyone else? So this idea that like, oh, this person's my best friend because he walks my dog with me and he drives to work with me every day. We know that's not true, but that's still why I listen. And if they can see your face, that's one more vector by which they can connect with you. So to refer back to that report, if we're going to look at it from a marketing perspective, it's like Apple Podcasts dominates everything on heavy podcast listeners, but the podcast newcomers, the growth demographic, it's YouTube 27, Spotify 27%, Apple Podcasts 6%.
So if somebody came to you and they said, hey, I've got an audio podcast, I want to grow it, and I'm thinking video.
Yeah.
What would you point them to?
So Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and TikTok are the greatest discoverability out there because you're literally asking someone to watch you for 20 seconds. That's not a hard ask. Also, they will find you by accident. So like the discoverability is enormous, and the number of content creators that a user on TikTok, Shorts, or Instagram Reels can be put in front of in a 60-minute window is unfathomable in a podcasting sense, right? Like how would, there's no way you could ever expose me to 100,000 people in an hour, but TikTok will. If you, for instance, make your long form content and you cut that into shorts, you can use your shorts as a driver for that full length video. That's what most people do. One example, Two Bears, One Cave. It's a couple of comedians, Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura. They're just a couple of stand-ups and they started a podcast together. But they are also a video podcast. There's lots of laughs, lots of jokes. Those are things that in video drive engagement, right? They take that mentality and cut out the 20 seconds where Tom made Bert laugh hysterically. And then people are like, wait a minute, what is this? Click. And you've got someone moved over and it's up to you to retain them.
So I think it's something that some of my clients in the future might be interested in. It's not my sweet spot, but it's something I see coming. When I look at the mechanics of it, you can start with $100 microphone and free software. Two, you can start with $100 microphone and $100 camera and look like poo-poo caca, but sound okay. And then file storage, like all of the things, it all starts adding up. It's not 2x, it's like 4 to 5x when you start talking about wanting to do it well at every step of the game, from the gear to the software to the, like all of this stuff. So part of me is like, how can I prepare? And how can I do it well and not have it be a burden?
Yeah, because you have all the issues of audio with like, you know, trying to dampen the reverb and like have good audio quality. But then also you have to get good lighting and have a decent background and blah, 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 blah.
When we talk about setup, because you're 100% right, additional equipment and even storage space, right? Like, do you need to buy a second external
or a third
now because you have all this video footage? Those are real concerns. But ways you can limit that is if you treat YouTube as your platform of choice, but setup can be as easy. Almost all cell phones shoot in 4K now. So as podcasters or podcast editors, especially podcast editors, our stuff's pre-recorded. So what we're doing right now on Riverside, you don't need to have everything plugged into a Blackmagic interface or something. That's $1,000 you can save yourself right there. You can literally go to Five Below and buy a tripod for $5 and take the cell phone that you probably already own, sit at your kitchen table and mount the rear facing camera, not the front, never the front facing camera, but it probably shoots in 4K. So that'll get you high quality footage. If you have a guest on, presumably they have a cell phone and they can record themselves as well. Now you have an A cam and a B cam. So you can switch between it because nobody wants to watch something static, right? They want things changing. Other simple things you can do, there's Pixabay, Wikimedia Commons. You can find high resolution images of topics you're talking about or short clips of B-roll for free. You can pay for a Storyblocks subscription if you want. That's another website where you can get a lot of B-roll and things like that. If we're talking about storage, once you upload to YouTube, like, you can make it their problem, right? Your edited video, you can just put on YouTube and then you can delete all the footage if you really have to, if that's a major concern for you, which hopefully you end up doing 50 videos down the line and then it is a concern.
As interviews would get, like 40 or 50 views. But the first short I uploaded got, the first day, almost 500 views.
Yeah.
Like 10 times as much as the full interview. And on YouTube, you can link to the full interview in the short stuff. Like they can easily tap that to get to the full video.
Yeah.
So Patrick says, this all makes me realize I'm basically still podcasting in 2014. And Brian says, me too.
Yeah, me too. But I'm trying to drag myself kicking and screaming into the 21st and a quarter century.
Yeah, my wife and I, kind of our thing is like watching more YouTube content, kind of seeing how people are editing, what intros are like. Because like, back in the day, it was you'd have like, hey, here's like a 5-second teaser, like, that hook. Now here's a 30-second fancy high production intro. And now a long-winded introduction is like, yeah, it's like, okay, now I got a 20-30 minute video. And it's like, yeah, now that 20-30 minute video is 6 minutes. Mm-hmm. There's no music. It's like immediately like getting right into it.
No intro. People will straight up in the comment. Now, YouTube comment sections are what they are. That's a toxic miasma.
Completely civil, right?
It's totally fine. It's the best part of civilization. Yeah. But they will post in there, intro too long. You know what I mean? And
yeah, they'll put the timestamp. Like actual here, like go to 3 minutes and 27 seconds, the actual content.
So true. We all know like clickbaity titles or clickbaity thumbnails and things like that. And they'll put in the top comment will end up with like 4 times as many likes as the video has views. Mm-hmm. And it'll say, hey, he doesn't actually answer the question in the title, but here's where he talks about it. And just FYI, for a YouTube video, a certain percentage of your video needs to be watched before YouTube will consider it a view. And even on top of that, YouTube nowadays, when they monetize you, the way they pay you is through view hours, not views. So they aggregate things together. They actually are tracking the minutes. So what people were doing is gaming the system, and because every time they got a click, it's the same way the old advertising paradigms online, right? Like where people just had to click on it. They didn't care if you bought it. Now it's stuff like enter Yetis on Riverside. But like this idea, what used to be a 30-minute like mini documentary on YouTube now is like smashed. And that's because it's competing in this different ecosystem. But you can still do the other stuff and you can make it less work for yourself by having just your footage of the actual speakers, you and a guest, or just you, whatever you're doing, and then interspersing that with like clips. Maybe I'm throwing up a clip of a newspaper article and then I'm showing up the cover of a book that I'm citing. Things like that is not that hard of an edit if you get into an NLVE, a nonlinear video editor, which is just fancy terms for video editing on a computer. There are ways that if you're just straight recording yourself, that's not actually much you have to edit. What you can do is hide certain things you don't like in the footage with an image, and then you don't even have to worry about it. And then I'm showing up the cover of a book that I'm citing. Things like that is not that hard of an edit if you get into an NLVE, a nonlinear video editor, which is just fancy terms for video editing on a computer. There are ways that if you're just straight recording yourself, that's not actually much you have to edit. What you can do is hide certain things you don't like in the footage with an image, and then you don't even have to worry about it. There's a statistic, I don't remember the exact number, but I believe it's something like they want you to change what's on screen every 15 seconds.
Can we take a little bit of a turn here? Because I think there's probably the editor out there that's thinking, I keep hearing about video, YouTube, everybody is hammering all of my clients about why they should do video. So I'm not really having to try and convince them. I'm having to try and convince myself that it's worth doing this, that the one that I'm not doing them a disservice. How does it make sense for me and for their show? Do you have any insights on like the value that we can bring and what that value is to us as editors. What's the value of adding video or converting to video for a client?
Yeah, so from a client's perspective, the first thing I would say, YouTube will monetize you. It won't happen immediately and it takes work, but like they will find the advertisers. So YouTube has live streams because they want to cut into Twitch's business. Well, as part of their live streams, if you have built a following, if you can gravitate over the people that you already have interested in your show, they'll directly contribute. YouTube has memberships because Patreon started being a profitable way for people to make money. YouTube's like, oh, we'll do that. We'll do it all here. So as an editor, it could behoove you, if you are pitching this to new clients, to say, hey, this is an all-in-one money-making platform. All these different sources of revenue are there from the creator's perspective.
The biggest hurdle that he and his clients have to deal with is the cost in time and resources.
Yeah.
4 to 6 times that. So you maybe don't have to sell the client on the idea, but you have to sell them on the reality is this may or may not be a 4 times delivery on your spend, but it is a 4 or 5 or 6 times spend increase.
I had a client who went to video and she's like, it's not going to take you any much longer time than the audio. I don't know why you're trying to charge me more. And I'm like,
that's so tough. I would just wonder how long it took them to see any return on investment in podcasting. And if they can, like, if this is an existing client, I'm curious about that. Personal anecdote. I've been podcasting for like 10 years or something, but I would very much consider myself a hobbyist. I never made a dime podcasting until I started doing one on YouTube. So it could be that I have a flawed perspective, but like in 6 months of taking my YouTube channel seriously, I got monetized as opposed to 10 years of podcasting on a weekly basis. So in my opinion, I'm like, well, I'm not making a lot of money on YouTube, but in 10 years, I made no money on podcasting as a creator. So in the world of social media, small is big is like a phrase you'll hear a lot. And the idea being like, it's really easy to get dazzled by someone like Mr. Beast, who has 68 million subscribers on YouTube. It's really easy to get distracted by someone like PewDiePie or whatever. But you don't need 38 million subscribers to make money, especially if you look at some of these different avenues.
Patrick has a question that I want to hit because I think it's really good. So we're currently live on Facebook and YouTube, assuming we didn't mess something up, which is entirely possible. His question is, based on your conversation, should you focus on going live only on YouTube, or should you also consider going live on other platforms? Does that hurt what you're doing?
I think you should try to find your audience personally. And what the demographics are actually different. My numbers on this are out of date, but when I was in college, the average YouTube user was a 13-year-old female. So that would be important to know, that the biggest pot of potential viewers, that's who you were looking to tailor content towards. And I think if you look around that era, the 2015 to 2020, like a lot of makeup tutorial channels got really big. And you can see that if you study these demographics. That's why this is important. So if you bring your audience with you, it doesn't necessarily matter where you go. Twitch is a predominantly male audience, and they are predominantly college age or young adults. And I think the reason for that is a lot of the content on Twitch appeals to them. It's dudes streaming Dota or League, right? And those are the people who are interested in watching that, esports and stuff like that. So by the same token, as small as big, like that's why it's so crucial to learn to build your avatar, creating the concept, using demographics and psychographics to create an imaginary, a person that is not real, but the imaginary average listener of your podcast who is going to be the viewer of your show.
For our show is specifically for podcast editors that are in the journey of trying to grow their show. Typically, they're going to be adults, not 15, 16-year-olds. Not saying they're not welcome, but it's going to be your adults in probably that 25 to 45 range.
Yeah.
Where would you suggest that we stream to not only gain the largest audience, but also help the most people?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I would do YouTube because there is a massive section of YouTube that frankly is, and I do this too, if something broke on my car, I YouTube it and I try to find a video and see what they're doing with their hands on it. Like, I'm not looking at a wiki how, because that doesn't help me. I want to see someone like actually taking the spark plug out of my specific car so that I understand what that looks like. And I think that there's an element of that. That's why I think what Daniel described on his channel is really helpful. The idea of people who are actually doing that. The question for me would be either growing that audience or, making them watch the entire thing. So you want to find one person with your avatar. So if you say that most viewers are between 25 and 45, that's kind of huge, right? Because when we look at behaviors, psychographics, not always, and this is changing, but traditionally a 45-year-old will have young children. A 25-year-old might have an infant or might have no children or no intention of having children at all. And that really changes behavior. For our channel, we discovered that the best time to drop videos was 9 a.m. on a Sunday. And when we broke down our psychographics, we discovered, dads are watching our stuff before they go to church. Like, we were able to make an inference for this avatar. What is it that you uniquely bring to the table? Does that already exist? Because there's something valuable if it doesn't exist, right? Then you get to be new. You get to be the first. But also, why is it working for these people? So that's why people are watching it.
We probably need to go ahead and transition because we do have to get to our AI question of the day because that's the most fun part of the show. Jennifer, do you have a question for us today?
I do, but I feel like I'm cheating because you're the one who found it. But I'll go ahead and ask it. This is our sponsored by AI.
Yeah, if you want to sponsor this spot, we'll take your money.
We asked ChatGPT for a random question, and Brian didn't like what it first generated, so he asked it again and then again until he got a good one, which is, if you could have any animal as a tame miniature pet, which animal would you choose and why?
Okay, I already know my answer. I don't need a miniature version, but a tame one, and that'd be a red panda.
Oh,
so I actually have like a little kind of Lego version of red panda. I want to get a red panda tattoo. They're so cute and they're so funny. If you haven't seen a red panda, just get on TikTok or Instagram Reels and just watch videos of them, because they're like the family of raccoons. So they're very similar to a raccoon. But they move like giant pandas. Yeah.
Just in a
and when they're
small
scared
way.
And try to be intimidating, they're like a foot tall, but they get up real big and they put their arms up and they try to be so scary. And it's the cutest thing.
Well, mine's giant panda because that's my favorite animal. So
they are dopey.
They're so cute.
I think I have to choose the nunchuck skills and I've got bow staff skills. I just need a liger and I would be the coolest guy in the Happy Hands Club.
It's perfect. I just got to go with a capybara. They're adorable. They're giant mouse things. The world's largest rodent. I could make them the size of a normal rodent. That sounds appealing. You can rub their giant oversized noses.
They're pretty cute.
I mean, to be honest, I might, want a tame full-size capybara. That might be where I'm leaning. But
Patrick says, what are the name of the sea dogs?
I have no idea.
Like a seal?
Not a walrus.
Or a sea lion?
I don't know, but there's a brewing company. I don't think that's what he's going for.
I know there's manatees are called sea cows.
Alejandro says something about Kung Fu Panda. I think he's probably talking about you, Daniel.
Shifu, the little guy.
We're starting to turn in people Google stuff while they're on the air, aren't we?
Oh, sea lion is
sea
what
lion.
Patrick says.
There we go.
It's a miniature size. You wouldn't have to have a big tank, but you'd have to have bigger than a fish tank, probably. But anyway, thank you all for joining us today, live in the chat, live on Facebook, YouTube, and also on the replay and on the audio version. I'm Jennifer Longworth. You can find me at bourbonbarrelpodcasting.com, and the letter B, the beautiful bald man, today is.
Yeah, you can find me at Top Tier Audio. I am Brian Ensminger, and I am bald. And it's not my favorite part, but it's kind of obvious. So there you go. Next up is Daniel.
I'm Daniel Abendroth. You can find me at rothmedia.audio.
I'm Rick Selnow, the inferior bald man, and I'm just appreciative for being asked to join. Hope some of this was helpful, and just as a parting word, because Brian's stuck with me there, just wanting to help the audience, which is true. I would say do as little work as possible. Set up your cell phone. Don't invest in new stuff. Just at the very least, use these video platforms, especially the short form ones, to drive people to what you're already doing. If that's the easiest way to do it, just dip your toe in and see if there are results for you.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you all, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
How much is that?